we'll start with the prayers. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are doing the 4th chapter of Panchadasi, a very beautiful chapter, and it contains a topic which is usually not dealt with in many texts. That is differentiation of creation by the Lord Ishwara and differentiation or Dvaitam caused by, created by Jiva. Why do we need to understand the Dvaitam? We need to understand Dvaitam because that is our experience in life. Throughout our life, we are experiencing duality. What is the duality consist of? Duality consists of the experiencer subject and the experienced world, Jagat. For all of us, what is common to all of us is this: I am the experiencer, I am experiencing the universe. Common to all human beings, all living beings. And we need to understand and dissect this aspect of duality to understand the ultimate principle, which is called as Advaita. Advaita means non-dual reality. So while we are studying this duality, at the back of our mind, you should always keep in mind that the ultimate goal of all this is, how can I reject or negate this duality and go to the substratum of this duality? The substratum is called as Brahman in the Upanishads. The ultimate realization of Brahman is the objective. That is the goal. In every chapter of Panchadasi, this is the goal. Swami Vidyaranya is a very effective, very intelligent, very voracious reader of the entire scriptural texts, and he can write such beautiful texts because he has got the entire Upanishadic and the scriptural literature in his mind. So he has got a complete grasp of the whole subject matter of Vedanta. And how he crystallizes these 15 chapters, Panchadasi means 15. In 15 different ways, he tries to bring that reality to us so that we also can appreciate that reality and experience fulfillment in life. With this short introduction, let me go to where we are. We are in verse number 9.
Virat.
What is the structure of this chapter? The structure of this chapter is verse number 1 talks about 2 types of Dvaitam. 2 to 13 is Ishwara Dvaitam. That is the topic we are discussing now. And we have finished 8 verses. And today we'll start with the 9th verse. The 9th verse is a continuation of Srishti. As I said before, Vidyaranya Swami collects all the verses connected with creation into in one place, and that is in this chapter from verse 2 to 13. He brings all the creation verses of different Upanishads. See how we can chant this.
Viran manurnara gavah, Viran manurnara gavah, Kharashva javayastatha, Kharashva javayastatha, Pipilika vadidvandvam, Pipilika vadidvandvam, Iti vajassaneyinah, iti vajassaneyinah.
Vajasvaneya is the Rishi Yajnavalkya, and he is the teacher, Guru in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is named after Vajasneya. It's also called as Vajasneya Upanishad. In this Upanishad, in the first chapter, 4th section, the creation is described in this format. That is what Acharya says, Swami Vidyaranya. What does he say? Virat, you see, as you know, Ishwara is the ultimate creator. But then Ishwara, according to the Upanishads, is the Karana Prapancha. Karana Prapancha Ishwara. Virat is the Sthula. That Karana Prapancha, like we have a Karana Sharira, and when we are in the waking state, we are experiencing the Sthula body. Similarly, for Ishvara, the whole universe is the physical form. That physical form is called as Virat Ishvara. The whole cosmos is his form. And then here it says how that Virat became all the human beings, the cattle, the horses, the goats, the male and the female, right from Brahmaji to the ants, Pipalika. All this is one consciousness principle. Virat is called as Karya Brahma. Karanam is consciousness. Anything else apart from consciousness is Karyam. Anything else apart from consciousness is Upadhi. Upadhi means medium of transaction. So this pure consciousness, when it has identification with the entire cosmos, it is called as Virat. Vishwa has got identification with one body. Virat has got identification with the entire cosmos. What about consciousness? Consciousness is by itself without identification, which is called as Brahman. Nirguna Brahman. So you should be very familiar with three technical names. Virat, Vishwa, Brahman. Naraha. Naraha means the first human being was this Virat Purushaha. And then what were the other names of this Virat? When the same Virat decided and became, see, one self, one consciousness is there in all the universe. So in different animals, creatures, the same consciousness, right from multicellular, smallest creature, unicellular creature to multicellular creatures, the same consciousness is there. Dvandam is there. In creation, we find male and female. Male and female, they generate more creations of their own species. So entire plurality, if you ask, what is it? It is dvanda. Dvanda means pairs. And one consciousness itself became all this. Now, the proof of that is in this verse, which says that originally the universe was in an undifferentiated form. And in an undifferentiated form, there is no, you cannot differentiate name and form. You cannot, there is no difference between subject, object, between objects and objects. If you ask, how is this? A sample is in our sleep state. In our sleep state, it is Advaitam. There is no differentiation. In our sleep state, there is no differentiation between me and the world. It's all merged into one consciousness principle. And this verse says that same consciousness enters from the tip of the nail to the complete body. Very, very famous verse. It shows how one consciousness enters the universe. This is called as Anupravesha Shruti. This consciousness should be meditated as the entire universe. When that consciousness expresses in the organ of speech, that consciousness is speaking. When the consciousness is hearing, it is that consciousness which is hearing. When I'm speaking, it is that consciousness which is speaking. When you are hearing, it is that consciousness which is hearing. That self is alone should be meditated upon. See how powerful are these verses. It takes you straight into that unifying consciousness principle. So we have covered Mundaka Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Aitareya Upanishad, Svetasvatara Upanishad, and now Brihadaranyaka Upanishad we have covered. All this is created by Ishwara. We have talked about Jagat, the world, the cosmos. What about the Jiva? Is Jiva creating himself, or is Jiva created by Ishwara? That is a question which many people will have. Now that is answered in the next verse. So Ishwara Srishti starts from Ikshana. Ikshana means thinking. I will create this universe, visualization. And then it created from Sukshma Shariram, Panchikarana process, Panchabhutas, sthula shariram, sthula prapancha, all this is created by one consciousness principle. In the 10th verse, who is a jiva? Very beautiful verse. Is something which you should remember. This is an important verse because it explains this verse and the next verse. Both are very, very important verses for understanding who is a jiva. This and this.
कृत्वा रूपान्तरं जैवम् कृत्वा रूपान्तरं जैवं देहे प्राविशदीश्वरः इति ताः श्रुतयः प्राहुः जीवत्वं प्राणधारणात्
Are chanted by Vijaya, one of our participants of these sessions. Very, very beautifully chanted. According to the Shruti, who is a jiva? Jaivam dehe pravishadi Ishwara. Jaiva means connected with the jiva. That is individuality. A jiva is called a jiva. Very different type of a definition we have here. A jiva is called as a jiva because he upholds the pranas in the body. Who is the holder of the pranas? It is the jiva. That is the definition of jiva. One definition. In the next mantra, there will be another definition. So, Ishwara created Jagat of names and forms. Jaivam jiva antaram krutva. Ishwara took different forms. Like what? One water becomes different waves. One clay becomes a variety of pots. Similarly, Ishwara, one Ishwara became all the jivas. Jivo hi nama. It is in the form of reflection. Abhasa form. So in me, there is a reflection of Parameshwara. In you, there is a reflection of that Parameshwara. So that is the actual creation by Ishwara. If I want to know who am I should know I am a reflection of some higher power. I should just say, Aham Brahma Asmi. Brahman is the original power of the whole creation. I am a reflection of that power in this body. Like there are waves which rise, waves fall. Bodies, the sthula shariram will be born and it will die. Again it will be born, again it will die. But what happens to the jiva? Jiva is a reflection. It also seemingly gets born, but actually it is never born. This is the way we should understand. Abhasa means reflection. Like sun can have reflection in a mirror. Similarly, jiva is a reflection in the mind. The mind is the mirror. Your mind is the mirror for that Paramatma to shine. My mind is is a mirror for Paramatma, that consciousness principle, to shine. So are you able to understand how this creation is happening of the jivas? Very good. Now, we consider ourselves to be individuals. Slowly, we will try to understand how we have lost our original identity and we have become an individualized, identified with the sthula sharira. That is where the problem lies. As we go further and further into the chapter, you will understand where the fall happens. Another beautiful Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, also talks about creation in this mantra. So kamayata bahusyam prajayeti satapo tapyata satapastva. So this is a creation explained in Taittiriya Upanishad, the 6th Anuvaka. Chandogya also, now here also we should understand they talk about one which becomes many. In Taittiriya Upanishad, what does this one become? Becomes manifest, unmanifest, defined, undefined, housed, houseless. So it becomes all this. That is what is said in this mantra, the 6th Anuvaka of the 2nd chapter. Chandogya Upanishad also says, entering these deities. What are the deities? The Panchabhutas are the deities. Deities means the higher exalted jivas. So in the normal Manushya also the same consciousness, Brahman, is there. In deities which are exalted jivas in higher lokas, also the same consciousness is there. Chandogya Upanishad says, entering these 3 deities. Chandogya talks about 3 elements which constitute the entire universe: fire, water, earth. And this 3 became all the universe. See how Prapancha, the whole cosmos, is being created, is explained as creation by one pure consciousness. Taittiriya Upanishad also talks about entering. Almost all the Upanishads will say that the Ishwara or Brahman enters the cosmos and the individual body as a reflection. This is one of the very important principles in Vedanta. Either it is said it enters like a reflection, or we say, the Upanishads, some of the Upanishads will say that it is an enclosure. Upahita Chaitanyam. That is another form. Like space is enclosed in the whole cosmos, consciousness, Satchidananda, is enclosed in the whole cosmos. Whenever the Srishti comes, it is there. This is the substratum. This Satchidananda is the substratum. Jagat is the created, and the Jiva is also the created, but it has its own creation. And Jiva, when we say creation, it is a reflection. It is not actually a creation, it is a reflection. That is why here I have mentioned Jiva is not created, but it is a reflection. Whereas the Jagat is what? It is created. It is left like that. If it is a reflection, what happens? Reflection can come, reflection can go. That is the difference between Jiva and Jagat. Ishwara became the entire Jada Prapancha. Ishwara became the Chetana Jivas also. So Jadam plus Chetana is the whole creation. And it is the same Ishwara who enters or creates the Jagat. He himself enters all the Jivas. You must try to understand this reflection theory of in Vedanta. Very important. If you don't understand, ask me. I will try to explain to you again. But you should keep in mind, reflection is like the mirror. When you stand in front of a mirror, reflection happens automatically. There is no creation involved. It is just, it happens. It is a phenomenon. Similarly, whenever the waking mind rises up, wakes up, when the mind is, there are three conditions of the human mind. One is waking. Second is that waking is called as active mind. Semi-active mind is dream. Passive mind is sleep. In all the three, the reflection is there. Without reflection, there is no Jiva. Okay? So this is what is being explained in this verse, in this particular page. Don't ask the question, why did God create me? Because God never created you. You appeared in creation. That's all. Because of what? Because of the buddhi. Why does the buddhi come in creation? That is as per the law of karma. Ishwara became the Jiva. Why do we call him Jiva but not Ishwara? Jivatvam pranava dharanam. Jiva is called, Ishwara is not called as Ishwara in the body, it is called as Jiva. Why it is called Jiva? Because it sustains the activities in the body. It holds the prana. Who is holding the prana in this body? Who is the controller? To whom can we say that the prana is functioning? The prana is functioning for the Jiva. And what are the three things which happen when the prana is functioning? Ichhati, janati, ichhati, yatati. Janati means you have knowledge. The Jiva has knowledge. Ichhati, Jiva can desire. And the Jiva acts. So knowing, desiring, and acting is called as sentiency principle in the body. Knowledge is the janati. Ichha means desires, and this desire is the root of all our emotions. Suppose you don't have desires, you will find that you have zero emotions. You will just remain in this world as per the creation of Ishwara. It is the problem lies in the desires. Prana Dharanam. Prana Dharanam means the function of life is prana. Prana Shakti keeps the body alive. Prana is the root of the body. Because Ishwara became the Prana Dharana, Ishwara is also called as Jiva, and the Jiva holds the prana in the body. There is another beautiful verse which describes what you mean by sentiency and insentiency and what causes the sentiency in the body. That is a verse number 45 of Panchadasi. Now we are doing 4th chapter. In the 6th chapter, a very beautiful verse comes and it tells us what is sentiency and what is the cause of the sentiency. Very, very elaborately discussed by Swami Vidyaranya. Because this is one of the things which confuses many, many seekers. We don't know what do you mean by sentiency. Sentiency means this 3 things. Janati, Ichchati, Yathati. They together is called as sentiency. If without the knowing, you are not sentient. Without desiring, you are not sentient. Without doing action, you are not sentient. Take the opposite of sentiency, insentient. Insentient, like look at a table. Does it know itself? Does it have knowledge? No. Can it desire? No. Can it do some actions? No. By itself, yeah. So the difference between sentient and insentient, you should be very clear. Sentiency, again, I'm repeating, sentiency means knowingness, desiringness, power to act. These 3 powers together is called as sentiency. Then the next question is, if you know this is sentiency, what makes this body sentient? What will be your answer? Body doesn't make this. Body is made up of Panchabhutas, Sthula Sharira. That is inert. What makes the body sentient and a stone insentient? What will be your answer? The right answer is, it is the buddhi. In the stone, in a table, there is no buddhi. Mind. Mind is the raw material, is a reflecting material, subtle body. It is this subtle body which is the cause of sentiency. Many people think it is Atma is the cause of sentiency, which is not right. That is what Vidyaranya explains in this particular verse, number 45. He says, Atma is the pure consciousness. But what makes this body sentient is the reflecting material called buddhi. That is the difference between sentiency and insentiency. Okay, I just inserted this verse today because I was going through the 6th chapter and I thought this is a good verse for us to remember when we talk about this creation. So in this way, all Shrutis, they describe a Jiva. And what is a second definition of Jiva? The second definition of Jiva is the next verse. The next verse, let's see.
Chaitanyam yadadhishtanam Chaitanyam yadadhishtanam Lingadehascha yah punaha Lingadehascha yah punaha Chichaya lingadehastha Chichaya lingadehastha Tatsangho jiva uchyate Tatsangho jiva uchyate.
For you to remember who is a Jiva? Who controls the Jiva? What controls the Jiva? The Jiva is, what are the components of the Jiva? That is what we are trying to understand in this particular verse. The first component is the substratum, which is called as original consciousness, OC. Subtle body is the second, the reflecting material, the mind. And the third is reflection of pure consciousness. The original consciousness itself is not called as Jiva. The reflecting material itself is not called as Jiva. Reflected consciousness in the reflected medium is not called as Jiva. What is called as Jiva? All these three together constitute the Jiva. Ishwara has entered the body and becomes the Jiva. That is what we learned in the previous two verses. Presence of reflected consciousness or Ishwara in the Deha is what is called as reflected consciousness. That means Ishvara, the pure consciousness, when it gets reflected in the mind, in the buddhi, that is called as the reflection of consciousness. It is not the original consciousness. Original consciousness is independently existing all by itself. Jivati iti jiva. One of the definitions of jiva is a living organism is a jiva. Living organism means what? It is having the power to respond, to receive the stimuli and to respond to and to give a response. So reception and reaction. Stimuli from the world is received through the sense organs. The mind unifies all the stimuli. The buddhi determines what should be the action, and then it gives a response through the karma indriyas. This is the Jiva. See how beautiful the definition is. A living organism which can receive through the sense organs the stimuli from the external world, and which can give a response to the stimuli through the karma indriyas is a Jiva. When this response and the stimuli process stops, that process, when it stops, we say the Jiva is dead. Jiva has gone out of the body. Jiva is that which survives even after the death of the body. What dies? The body dies. The deha mrityaha, the one who, the gross body dies. Why it dies? Because the subtle body has left the gross body. So Jiva is the principle of life. It's an intrinsic personality which survives the death of the body. Jiva is there in this body for a certain period of time. What is the proof that it can survive? Again, our sleep state. In the sleep state, what happens? The mind has withdrawn. That is the proof to say that there is a possibility of a Jiva surviving the death of the body. This is our own anubhava. I am able to withdraw from the body and making the prana control the body, sthula sharira. Similarly, I can take the prana also and drop the body. When I take the prana also, what happens? I'm entering into a new body. Jiva is a chaitanyam. It survives the death of the body and everything else. Anything can happen to the world, but the jiva is not connected with the gross external world. Very important point. Jiva is not connected with the gross world as its intrinsic nature. It is an incidental nature for a jiva. It comes into the body because it has to enjoy as per the law of karma, prarabdha. Chaitanyam is the adhishthanam which survives the death of the body and the world. That original consciousness, which we are talking as a reflection in the body, that will survive even the death of the universe. That is what is called as pralayam. In the pralayam state also, this adhisthana, the substratum, survives. Shvetashvatara Upanishad, there is a beautiful mantra. We have seen this mantra before. Mayam tu prakritim vidyat, mayinam tu Maheshwaram. This Lord Ishwara is the controller of this principle called as Maya. Maya means the whole creation, the whole Jagat, with all the human beings and inanimate objects. There is one controller. That controller is called as the Maya Shakti. Maya Shakti belongs to whom? That pure consciousness. It belongs ultimately to that principle. Linga Sharira means the subtle body. Now, Linga Sharira, why is it called Lingam? Because it is an indicator that the body is alive. And what does the Linga Sharira consist of? Pancha Jnana Indriyas, Pancha Karma Indriyas, and Pancha Prana. And then Manas and Buddhi. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17. These 17 is what leaves the body. When it leaves the body, it carries the reflection of consciousness with it. It is the prana which keeps the body alive. Prana is also a part of the lingam. It indicates the presence of life. Jivatvam, when we say, it is the prana functioning in the body. The individual reflected consciousness, when it reflects in the body, it is called as chit chaya. Chaya means shadow. That reflected consciousness is a shadow of the original consciousness. So in sleep, what happens? This shadow, which was together with the mind, that mind has become passive because of the 3 gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. When the mind is tamasic, the reflected consciousness goes back and remains with Paramatma. That is what happens in sleep. I, when you say, it is generally we refer the I as the gross body. That is what we should correct. We should correct it and say, I am not the gross body. I am this I, sometimes we say, I am the mind. That is the Linga Sharira. Linga Sharira is also not the real nature of a jiva. Sometimes I say I am sleeping. That time we are referring to the Linga Sharira connected with the Karana Prapancha. That also is not real me. What is the real me? I am the Chit, not the Chit Chaya. which comes and goes. Chichaya is the ahamkara. It comes in the waking, dream, and sleep. How does it say in the sleep? I don't know anything. That is the ahankara in sleep. In the dream, I experience the dream world. In the waking, I am experiencing the waking world. These three is an incidental nature of a jiva. This whole verse is talking more and more about that linga sharira, linga dehasta chichaya. In the buddhi, there is a reflection. That is the linga sharira, reflected consciousness in the buddhi. So I have explained to you what is this linga sharira, consisting of 17 parts. Remember, 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 2. And this survives the death of the body. In Dridrisha Viveka, also it explains in 41st verse, it says, who is the empirical jiva? It is the empirical jiva, means the jiva in the waking world. Is it real or unreal? If you think that that empirical jiva is real, then you are ignorant. If you know that this empirical jiva has a real nature, intrinsic nature as pure consciousness, as Brahman, then you are a jnani. Okay, so this is how the Jiva Srishti is described by very beautifully by Vidyaranya. So the entire creation of Ishwara ends with the creation or reflection of itself in the human body as Jiva. Okay, so that is how the this particular verse ends. The notes here are all referring to the revision of verse number 9, 10, and 11. This you can just go through yourself. I have already explained all this. It is just a repetition of the same message of that the Jiva is 17 factors. All this is the same, which I have discussed today. Now the question is, Jiva must exhibit jnanam of Ishwara. Jiva should not have dukkham or delusion. Jiva, it is a reflection of that Ishwara. Ishwara is what? Sukha Swarupam. He is always happy. But how Jiva has different properties than Ishwara is a question which Vidyaranya puts himself. See, we will never think of all this. But how Vidyaranya Swami now takes up Jiva Srishti. He is still in the Ishwara Srishti. The 12th and the 13th verse also explains to us the Jiva Srishti by Ishwara. Okay, let's listen.
माहेश्वरी तु मायाया माहेश्वरी तु मायाया तस्या निर्माणशक्तिवत् विद्यते मोहशक्तिश्च तं जीवं मोहयत्यसौ
The Jiva, how is he different from Ishwara? The first thing about Ishwara is the controller of Maya, whereas Jiva is controlled by Maya. There is a difference. between controller and controlled. Like in a prison, you have the controller, superintendent of the prison. He also is living in the prison only, but then the prisoner is controlled. The difference between controller and controlled, huge difference. Maya is the power of Ishwara. Ishwara, this Maya has one more power. It is called as the deluding power. Deluding power is what? The projecting power. Creative power, projecting power. These are all two powers of Maya Shakti. This second power is the one which deludes the Jiva, which therefore the Jiva thinks, I am not Ishwara, I am a Jiva. Jiva here means I am the Sthula Shariram. This is where the problem lies. Ignorance, this is where ignorance plays a very important role. Maheshwari to Mayaya. Maheshwari is a name of Ishwara, Maha Ishwara. Why is he called Maha Ishwara? Because he is the controller of the Maya Shakti. Maya is the medium of Ishwara. Like this body is the medium for the Jiva to come into this world, experience the waking state and go back to its original state in the sleep state, back with original consciousness. Similarly, whole world, when you look at the whole world, this is the form of the Ishwara. The same Ishwara, and what is the medium? That the power by which the Ishwara comes and shows his form is the power of Maya Shakti. How do I show my form? I show because of avidya Shakti. I have ignorance. Lord does not have ignorance. Lord is the controller of Maya. Maya has got a power of projecting the whole universe. And Ishwara is not affected by the universe because he knows the real nature as Brahman. If I also know my nature as Brahman, then what happens? I'm free. Exactly like Ishwara. So if I get rid of my Jiva Srishti portion in me, I can also claim. There is only, because the Upanishad says there is only one Brahman. That's all. See how beautifully the whole linkage of Brahma Vidya with this chapter is. Jiva Srishti, Ishwara Srishti, if I know clearly, then I can claim Aham Brahmasmi. Maya, Brahman is called Ishwara when associated with Maya Shakti. Without Maya Shakti, Ishwara is Brahman. With Maya Shakti, Brahman is Ishwara. Try to understand the difference. We are only giving a name just to identify what this Brahman is. Try to understand this statement. Brahman with Maya Shakti is called as Ishwara, which is the whole cosmos, which is seen, experienced. The same Ishwara minus the Maya Shakti is Brahman. Negate the form and name called as the Jagat. What remains? Brahman. If you understand these two statements, equations, you have understood the whole Vedanta. Okay. For Maya to function, there should be a reflection of Brahman. Without reflection, there is no Maya Shakti. Brahman plus the three gunas is this whole Jagat. Trigunatmika Maya. If you have studied Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, these verses will become very easy to understand. Maya is nothing but three gunas. Three gunas are sattva, rajas, and tamas. Sattva stands for jnanam. Rajas stands for action. Tamas stands for inertia. If you want to describe the whole universe in 3 words, what will you say? Sattva, rajas, and tamas is the universe. See how beautiful our scriptures are. Sanskrit is a wonderful language which describes, and it is very, very useful to us to understand the scriptures and what the scriptures mean when they say Aham Brahma Asmi. It's very effective, it is powerful, and this knowledge can be very, very useful to us. Vidyate moha shaktischa. Maya has power of creation and delusion. Tam jivam mohyate iti asau. Nirmana Shakti is the power to create that comes from rajas. What is tamas? Tamas is the power of delusion. Avarana Shakti is ajnanam. Knowing, perceiving Shakti is sattva. Nirmana Shakti or Vikshepa Shakti is projection of the world. Deluding power of the world is the tamas. The one which controls sattva, rajas, and tamas is called as Maheshwari. See how beautiful sattva, rajas, and tamas, with one word you can describe, and that is what Vidyaranya has done. Shvetashvatara Upanishad, now the same message. What is this Maheshwari? Is how is it expressed in the Upanishad is given in these 3 Upanishads. There are Mayam to Prakriti Vidya, that is in Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Narsimha Tapaniya Upanishad has this particular mantra, and all this says Maya Shakti deludes the Jiva. But Jiva, if he, why is a Jiva suffering today? Because he is deluded by his own mind, thinking that he is the body. By knowledge, what do I get? This delusion goes away. Why do we study Panchadasi, Jiva Srishti, Ishwara Srishti? Is to understand I am that. First is to understand I am not the body, Sthula Sharir. Next is to understand I am not the deluding mind, projecting all the time. Third, come to the level of reflection of consciousness is the Jiva. And ultimately, what do I say? This reflected consciousness is also not my real nature. I am that pure Satchidananda Swarupa Ishwara. This is the journey of a Jiva, the spiritual journey of a Jiva. Jiva is not aware of his original nature because of Moha Shakti of Maya. Bhagavad Gita, the 15th verse of the 5th chapter. Nadatte kasyachit papam nachaiva sukrutam vibhuho ajnane navritam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavaha. Lord Krishna explains why the Jiva doesn't know his real nature in this beautiful verse. What does he say? Jiva doesn't know his nature because the knowledge about his nature is covered, enveloped. Ajnane navritam jnanam. I am the pure consciousness, pure Brahman is covered by ajnanam, avidya. This avidya has got another power which is called as deluding power, which is due to the tamas nature of the Panchabhutas. See, this body is made up of Panchabhutas. It has got this sattva, rajas, and tamas as its prakriti, as its nature. So the body will remain tamasic, will remain sattvic or rajasic. But I am the reflected consciousness. I am not the prakriti. This reflected consciousness has to realize its original nature, which is different than matter principle. That is what is the confusion we have to resolve. What happens because of delusion? That is what we are going to see next week. Okay, very beautiful ways of, these are very beautiful verses of Swami Vidyaranya, the way he brings out these topics, and by going through these verses itself, you can realize your nature. You don't have to wait for any end to come. I will, after all the 15 chapters of Panchadasi only, I will realize, no. While doing itself, the process of learning these verses itself, you'll realize Aham Brahma Asmi. Okay, so this verse we'll take up next week, 13th verse, and this will be the last verse of Ishwara Dvaita. From 14th to 31st verse is Jiva Dvaita. The Upanishads have a unique style of presenting a Jiva, which we will see from 14 to 31. We have one more verse to go for Ishwara Srishti. With this, we'll close the Panchadasi, chapter 4. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachade Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, there are no questions on the chat box, so Shanmugam will unmute everybody so that you can ask questions. Does anybody have a question?
Sekhaji,
Bolo, bye.
earlier you were saying that the Brahman without which Maya Shakti is Jiva, right?
Yes.
And Brahman without Maya Shakti is Ishwara.
No. Brahman with Maya Shakti is Ishwara. Ishwara minus Maya Shakti is Brahman. I'm not bringing Jiva at all right now in this equation.
Then how about Atma?
Atma is the same as Brahman, is the same as, just to understand what is the Atma, you should, first of all, you should understand Atma means the self in this body. That means the consciousness in this body is called as Atma, number one. Number two, you should know what is Brahman. Brahman means the self of the universe. But you see, what do I see? I see a big world in front of me. I also see this body. This body, I go to the core of the body, which is called as Atma. I go to the core of the universe. universe includes my body also. So when I'm looking or understanding the universe, I say that that universe is Brahman. Now, the equation which I gave you, so the main thing for you to understand is this Atma is Brahman. That is the main thing you should understand. There is no difference between Atma and Brahman. It's the same. Okay, that is one. That is the actual lesson.
Yeah.
This,
But we,
so
but
this you
here
have
we have
understood, correct?
But here we have Jiva as Maya and Jiva as the Lord also.
Okay, now
Right.
you see we are bringing other technical terms.
Mm.
Now, Jiva is Atma. Jiva, okay, the moment we call it a Jiva, you should understand you are already talking about the body. The moment you see, why do you call it Jiva? Because you are experiencing the body.
Yeah.
The body, when you experience, that body is called as Maya. So Jiva and body, Jiva and Maya is clear to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is at the individual level. At the total level, what happens? There is something, instead of Jiva, you will call it Ishwara. Because it is total, it is not for one body. So Ishwara is with Maya principle. It is because again the whole Jagat is seen. Jagat is nothing but matter principle. Is it clear?
Mhm.
So Jiva and Maya is clear. Ishwara and Maya is clear.
Yeah.
See, we are only
Wait.
putting the different terms because we want to explain who am I and what is this world.
Yeah.
You see, to explain who am I and what is the world, we are using these terms: Jiva, Maya, Ishwara, Jagat, Brahman. All these are only terms for us to understand only one thing. There is only one thing, which is called as the pure consciousness. So the bottom line you should say is Aham, I, the Atma, am Brahman, the pure consciousness. And that you keep on repeating. And what happens today? What do you think? Today you think Babu Bhai is this body. Babu Bhai has got all relations: son, father, mother, sister. All these are relations. The relations are coming only because of the body, not because of the reflected consciousness, not because of Atma in the body. Relationship is coming only because of the physical body. In front of this physical body, I see my son or daughter. It is a relationship. That is a vyavaharika satyam. That will go on. What I want to understand is, who am I? Who am I? Ultimately, how do I know who am I? And that is to say, I am the pure Atma. Okay, so all this is mainly given, terms are given only to explain I am ultimately the pure consciousness. If I can realize and own up that, I am free. Okay, so every day when you get up in the morning, even if you don't understand I am that light of consciousness, doesn't matter. You just tell yourself, I am that pure light. I am that pure consciousness. Let that remembrance come again and again. See, let that thought come. And slowly you will understand a transformation will happen in your mind, and you will start appreciating what you didn't understand before. Okay?
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else has a question? Yeah, Deepak?
So just to once again reiterate, the Maya Shakti has two powers, the Avarna Shakti and the Vikshesha Shakti.
Yes.
And the Avarna Shakti is tamas.
Correct.
Vikshepa Shakti is rajas.
Yes.
In the Sattvic, you have said perceiving power. What it means is that in the Sattvic state, it is in the pure reflected consciousness.
Yes.
So what will be the Sanskrit equivalent or a Hindi equivalent of that? Reflected consciousness would be Jiva.
Yes. You see, in the sattva state,
Yeah.
it is jnanam. Jnanam
Jnanam.
is predominant.
Jnanam is predominant.
You see, in the rajas state, it is vikshepa, which is predominant.
Projecting power.
The projecting power.
Projecting power
In
is
the
dominant.
tamasic state, it is the inertia. It is
The-
the wheeling nature.
The wailing nature will lead to delusion.
Correct. It gives me delusions. So whenever I'm deluded in the mind, it is just prakriti. That's all. Don't see, whenever you are deluded, you're confused in life, you have doubts, your agitated mind, don't ever criticize your mind, because it is the same mind you have to use to get liberated from this mind through the sattva guna.
So the sattva guna, which is the pure jnanam of, which means that at this stage, I realize that I am the reflected consciousness,
Yes,
but it's still part of the Maya. I still have to transcend this.
absolutely. Yes, you have
have
to
to reach-
transcend.
but I-
Yes,
Yeah. So therefore, you have to reach the stage of sattva
correct.
before you can move up the ladder. So it's a sequential. What I'm trying to say is this whole process
Yes,
of breaking through Maya to realize who am I
yes,
cannot just happen unless I don't reach the sattvic stage.
correct. That's correct. And this sattva is reached only by jnanam.
Okay.
Only
Not by
only-
habits, by
not by
eating,
karma, not by
meditation.
habits, nothing. Only jnanam, 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 jnanam. Again and again, the stress by Shankaracharya in all his bhashyam is only jnanam will liberate you.
No, I understand that, but I'm just trying to this thing as a jiva. We are obviously living in this material world with all its desires. So if one is, have a drink here or do this, very difficult then to sort of, and yet you want to have jnana. So you have to also change your, but you can get jnana, but if you don't sort of practice it, you may not be able to transcend. That's my point is, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that, so I'm not saying that you need to take sannyasa, or you need to be a celibate, or you need to be an ascetic. But there is, to reach the sattvic stage, there has to be some self-discipline.
That is
I'm
right.
just-
That's correct. You're right. What you're saying is right. That
Yeah.
some amount of self-discipline is required.
Yeah.
And without that, you will not even come to this jnanam state. I'm telling you that also.
Okay.
If you have not had the self-discipline, you would not even be in this session today. No way. You have reached some level of purity.
Good.
Not purity to the level of liberating you entirely, but you are in the spiritual path. That itself will give you a lot of satisfaction, peace in life. It will give you a mind which is easy to handle.
Yes.
You see, you will feel that, okay, life is difficult, but I can still manage. I can still manage. You will get that feeling. You see, spiritual journey is something very, very strange. There are certain verses in the scriptures which will completely put a stop to all your delusions. Completely. It will just, you will be amazed at the power of these verses. And this happens to, as you go, like I said, it is always jnanam and jnanam and jnanam. And jnanam about what? jnanam about this one reality.
So it is the, to say it simply, that that enlightenment or liberation or being a Jiva Mukta is this deep awareness that what I see is mirage and not the water.
Correct.
And whenever I see the mirage as water, I know that is born out of ignorance.
Exactly.
And I don't run after it.
Absolutely.
This position
Yes.
that I take in my daily life
Yes.
is liberation.
Absolutely right. And
Which
this
means
happens in a matter of seconds. It doesn't take much time. You know, initially you may be thinking, I have to do so many Upanishads, I have to learn so many things, but you see, this is all Maya. It just happens suddenly. You will realize that all my illusions, all my delusions, all they evaporate in just a few, it just happens. It is a miracle which happens to a Jiva's life when he realizes that he is not the Jiva which he thought he was, which is what all mind created delusions. When that mind created delusions are known as delusions, Maya stops. And that what happens is, when that Maya stops, even for a split second, the Jiva realizes, oh my God, the Upanishads is telling the truth. Maya is just a projection which is going on in the mind continuously during my waking state, and it stops during the sleep state. I alone am the Jiva in this body who is experiencing both. I experience this Maya Shakti, which is the Devi Shakti. Shakti is basically Devi principle. It is just the Maya principle. It is there in this body during the waking state, and it suddenly goes away in the sleep state. Who is the one who realizes this? It is the Jiva. You see, it is you may be thinking about so many analysis and so many confusions, and you have to have sadhana, chatushtaya, sampatti, discipline, and all that. But when knowledge happens, all this is gone. That is why this Pratasparami shloka is so powerful. It says that you are the Sakshi. Why we get all these doubts is because we think we are the buddhi. The buddhi is churning thoughts after thoughts and giving doubts, and you have to just tell your buddhi, that is your projection. I am not this. Aham Brahma Asmi. I am that pure consciousness. Start practicing this. Initially, you deliberately do it. After some time, you'll realize that even when the activity is going on, you will remember, I am Atma. And when that happens, you are abiding in your real nature. And that is what is called as Jivan Mukti. It happens automatically when you're in the path. Like how you reach a destination. Suppose you're on a train, sitting in a train. It is going to Delhi. Without you doing anything, you are in the path. You are sitting inside. So there is some force which will take you to the destination. Have faith in that force. Continue the journey. That's all. Okay. Thank you. Good, Deepak. Very good question. I'm glad you are bringing up all these points. Saru, yeah.
Yeah. Hari Om. So my question is about when you talk about sentiency, you spoke about 3 elements: knowing, desiring, and acting.
Correct.
Yeah. And insentiency is not knowing, not desiring, not acting.
That's correct.
Now, in this, what I am seeing is that when I don't desire and when I don't act, yeah, and I only know, that is Brahman.
Good question.
Yeah.
Very good question.
And
Actually speaking, it is correct. When you're not desiring and you're not acting, you have pure jnanam.
I have my jnanam, right? Now, on the other hand,
Aham Brahma Asmi is the jnanam. You are in a sattvic state.
Yeah. But now when I look at the insentient is not desiring, not acting, but it is also not knowing.
Correct.
So I will be closer to, say, for example, a tree, but with the knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah. Without the desire and without the action.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't miss one point.
Hmm.
One point. The difference between this sentiency is caused not by Atma, it is caused by buddhi.
The sentiency is caused by buddhi.
Buddhi.
Okay.
Chapter 6, verse number 45 of Panchadasi is a brilliant shloka, one of the most important shlokas of the whole Panchadasi. Many a times seekers do not understand. They think that consciousness is the knowing principle. That is an absolute knower. It is not the buddhi which is that knowing in the body. There is a difference.
Can you just repeat it, please, once more?
Yeah. You see, there are two knowing principles. One is the knowingness, which is consciousness. Okay. The second is that knowingness, when it is reflected in the buddhi, it becomes a knower of the world. We are not talking of the knower of the world. That is ahamkara.
Okay.
That is the reflected consciousness. That is the buddhi.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The difference between sentiency and insentiency, this is a very important point. The difference comes only because of the presence of the mind and the absence of the mind, of the buddhi. Okay. So sentiency is caused by the presence of the buddhi in the body.
Okay.
Absence of buddhi is the cause of insentiency in a stone.
Right.
Okay. So
Right.
you should say that the body is sentient because of the buddhi. The buddhi
Yes.
is the conscious. It is reflecting. It is like a mirror. Always.
So it's the upadhi.
Upadhi.
It's upadhi.
It is a upadhi. It is like a mirror. You see, nobody knows what the mind is. Nobody has ever seen the mind. But what the rishis tell us is, mind is like a very powerful mirror. Like in a mirror, you see the reflected sun. Similarly, you can our mind, when it wakes up, it is like that mirror which has got the shine of the sun in it. So our mind has got the shine of consciousness when it wakes up. This shine goes away in sleep.
Right. Right.
So
right.
you can because it is your experience.
Yeah.
You see, because it is your experience, you can say that you can feel it. You can feel the difference of a sentient mind, which is powerful, woken up mind, and a mind which is sleeping.
Yeah.
Both are your own experiences.
Yeah.
But how you're able to say or feel that experience of sleep state, that is only because of Sakshi.
Okay, so this knowing is so the reflected mind. One is the reflected mind, which I have, which makes me sentient.
Correct.
And this is not the Brahman. This is just the reflection.
Yes, it is only a reflection, but the real nature is the fourth state, which is called as Turiya. The Turiya means it is not the waking, dream, or sleep.
And it is the knowing of that state.
It is knowingness.
Knowingness.
It is the knowingness of that state. Okay.
It is not knowingness. It is only knowing. There is no words to describe.
Okay.
It is the big eye.
Big eye.
Yes.
It is beyond the words. It is beyond the mind. It is beyond time. It is beyond space. It is adrishyam. All the things which we learn in Mundaka Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, all the verses which deal with Atma. all are talking about this fourth state.
It is also like the Gayatri mantra. The Gayatri mantra is talking about
exactly. Ultimately, through Gayatri mantra, we are trying to reach this Turiyam. Always remember Turiyam, Turiyam, Turiyam. It is that which I have to reach by knowledge, not by karma. It is not through upasana. It is not through any type of action. Shankaracharya brilliantly brings this out in Taittiriya Bhashyam. There are two Bhashyams in Taittiriya Upanishad, two commentaries, two vicharas, two inquiries. Number one is the Anupravesha Shruti. Anupravesha means entrance of of Paramatma in the body. Okay, there is one commentary of Shankaracharya in Taittiriya Upanishad. Now that comes in the I mean, I'm just giving you references. You can go back, or actually I'm writing notes of that at the moment. I have about 800 pages I have finished. I will be finishing the Taittiriya Bhashyam of the second chapter in about roughly a month of 800 pages. Shankara Bhashyam, which is a very powerful. See, my notes are not very organized at this stage of this Bhashya, but it has the contents.
Yes.
If you read it, there are some seekers who are very good at reading and understanding. In our group, there are some seekers like that. Just to come back to this, there are two commentaries there. One commentary is about the word called as upasamkramya. That is the 8th section of the second chapter. Okay, upasamkramya, that is a Sanskrit word. On this word, Shankaracharya writes a beautiful commentary, and he says in that Jivatma is not becoming Paramatma.
Is
okay. Jivatma is not becoming Paramatma, but Jivatma is already Paramatma. You can Jivatma, if it was not Paramatma already, it can never become. I mean, the analysis is there in that mantra. So, what is the takeoff for me? The takeoff for me is I have a real nature. All of us, we all have a real nature, which I don't know today. When I study the Upanishad, it reveals to me the real nature. And that real nature is the real nature of the whole universe plus this body. It is the same nature, and that is what is called as Atma. That is what is called as the self. When I know through Jnanam alone, when my buddhi understands this Turiyam clearly, what happens is ignorance, which was problem for the Jiva, for me, that goes away. But it comes only because of clarity of knowledge of this Turiyam.
But tell me, does anyone abide in the Turiyam?
Every jnani abides in Turiyam.
They abide in Turiyam.
Every jnani.
Okay.
Any jnani, if you call yourself, suppose you call yourself, you don't have to you don't have to tell every rickshaw driver you're a jnani. You can just know yourself. I am a jnani. I know who I am. That's all.
Shekharji, deep sleep I abide in Turiyam.
Sorry?
In deep sleep, yes. I abide in Turiyam.
Yes, you abide in Turiyam, but that is a knowledge in the waking state.
Yeah.
It is not in sleep state. In sleep state, you are tamas pradana. In sleep state, you are tamas pradana. In waking state, you are sattva pradana. So in the waking state, you try to ask this question, who was I in sleep? But it is happening in the waking state, not in the sleep state. That is why it is called as jnanam. You see, it is jnanam because I am aware of myself.
And jnanam is in the waking state only.
Yes, it is in the waking state. In the dream state, there is no jnanam.
No,
It is not controllable. There is no control in our dream state. There is no control in the sleep state.
Yeah.
The only control we have and the only place where we can know who we are is in the waking state.
So when I can be controller of the Maya, also in some sense,
Yes,
the Ishwara is
correct. You see,
controller of the Maya.
the
instead of
moment
the
you
controlled.
come to realize, yes, you are right. Now you are in the right track. See, the moment you come to realize I am Turiyam, I am the witness, then the whole understanding of the Upanishads changes. The moment you understand I am a witness, I am not the Jiva Ahankara. The Jiva Ahankara has to drop that Ahankara and say, Aham Brahmasmi. That is what is called as dropping your ignorance. This is a cognitive process in your intellect, in your buddhi.
It's almost like an affirmation process in many ways.
Yeah, it is affirmation. It is affirmation of your real nature. That's all.
No, with the knowledge of it.
Yes, and it is only knowledge. Aham Brahmasmi is only jnanam. Okay?
It's only jnanam. Yeah.
Pure
It's not an
jnana.
experience.
It is nothing except jnana.
And that's why we say you're not the experience. So that's why there'll be no experience of this also, because it will be jnanam only.
Yes, it is jnanam. It is not an. The moment you say it is experience, the mind and the ego will come.
Yes. You
see, the ego comes either as a sleeper, either as a dreamer, either as a waker. So wakerhood, sleeperhood, and dreamerhood have to be dropped in your mind and say, I am neither of these three. I am Turiyam.
I am Turiyam.
And what is it which reveals this Turiyam to me? It is this Upanishad. It is this Shruti. It is this Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, and Brahma Sutra.
Right. Thank you. And I have one small request, sir. When you share the meditations, is it possible that they can be saved with the name? Like it's very helpful when I go back to know that it is, I'm doing which meditation. Like you do different, instead of the number.
Today I didn't put the heading Pratasmarami. Normally I put which mantra from where it is. I didn't put the heading today, Pratasmarami. This is a Pratasmarami shloka by Shankaracharya.
No, the ones which you sent to us in the recordings, they're numbered as 81, 82, 83. So I'm saying there, if it can be mentioned as the name, if it's not too much of a problem, that'll be really helpful while searching for it.
You see, there is no name for any of these meditations because they're all related to mantras. I can probably, if whatever mantra you're seeing in the second page.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean to say in the meditation, I don't.
Like Nirvana Shatkam, like you did Nirvana Shatkam 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 verse. So if just Nirvana Shatkam is mentioned, or you did the other one with the Chin Mudra.
But you have the notes of these meditation, that mantra notes are there with you or no?
Actually, I do more listening than reading.
Okay.
Yeah, so when the meditation is there, I obviously listen to it. I'm just saying when I'm scrolling by, sometimes I want to do Nirvana Shatkam again, I want to revise something else again. It's difficult to keep track of which number was the meditation.
Okay, you want to know the number and which mantra it is. Okay, I'll try and see if I can put that
if it's
up.
possible.
I'll do that. Yeah.
Already you're sharing so much with us. Thank you so much.
Okay, I can see if I can add on the number along with the number, either the text or which mantra it is.
Yeah, which mantra? Just Nirvana Shatkam, that would be very helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else has any other question?
Jai Shri Krishna. Hari Om.
Vijay, tell me.
A brilliant session and a fantastic exposition on Ishwara Srishti and Jiva Srishti. I think it clarified very, very well. Just one clarification. So when we say chit chaya, I can equate it to chit abhasa.
Yeah.
Okay. Number two is the way I put it across here is especially on the chit chaya. These the component of tamas where it merges into the pure consciousness, that is the deep sleep, where you said there is no ego. So that is the reason why there is no janati, ichati, and
Yeah,
yadati.
correct. That's
But
right.
the janati is the component where it is the avidya portion there.
Yes.
Yeah. So actually, we can equate there is no buddhi. So in that extent, you can be a part of the Ishwara Srishti, but for you having this avidya, mula avidya.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So otherwise, you are as good as insentient only.
Yes.
But the fun part about insentient is, for example, the tree, or for example, the water or the sun. They don't have their own desire. They don't act for their own cause.
Correct.
But they don't create any problems for themselves. They are definitely out of the sorrow like we all deal with.
Yeah.
But the only difference is the jnana. I think that is where I think Shankaracharya says, ati durlabham trayame vetad. That is where the importance of human body comes in, wherein you have the buddhi. I was just reading when you were taking us through this. I was reading this verse 472 of Viveka Chudamani, where it says, it is that mind alone, which is the manayeva karana manushyana moksha bandhi, wash of the attachment, that a creation of your own mind. That the Jiva Srishti needs to be dropped for us to get out of the sorrow. But the same mind which ropes you into this attachment also liberates you. I think that's coming out. The second aspect is the same, the rajas, right? The ego shines through this aspect of the rajasic mentality, wherein all the three components of jnanati, ichati, and yatati are there. And that is the waking world, wherein the rajasic person takes the world as real, and hence he is bounded. But the same waking stage, when he reaches to the quality of a sattva, where the ego gets sublimated, that means with the knowledge of he being the pure consciousness as Sakshi Bhava, where he drops the other two aspects of ichati, yatati, that is no desires of his own, that is selflessness, and no yatati, action. That means he puts his action for the nishkama bhava, wherein the karma yoga concepts come. That is when the ego becomes sublimated. That is when he drops the world as unreal, and that's when the Turyam state can be achieved. I think this correct. Is where we understood.
That's right. Yes. Good. Your summarization is beautiful. Very good. Excellent. Excellent understanding of the scriptures and how the progress is. Well, very good, Vijaya. I don't see any flaw in your thinking. Good.
Thank you. Thank you.
But
I have one more question.
Yeah.
When I was reading chapter 6 of Panchadasi, or even this 13, and when you come to 12 and 13 of this verse, the same Brahman at the Ishwara Srishti reflection, that is called that Atman or Brahman, is again called Kutasthana. The Kutasthana, yes, is the definition only from the Jiva Bhava. From the Jiva Srishti, only the
Kutasthana is from a Jiva's point of view. Brahma is from the totality point of view.
Totality point of view. But both of them are actually the same.
It's the same. Ultimately, both are same. That is what is the realization of a jnani.
Yeah.
You see, what is a jnani? A jnani is one who is seeing the same universe like you and me. But what happens? You can be a jnani also when you know that this universe is nothing but it is one pure reality. That Kutastha and Brahma are only names given to one reality.
Yeah.
And you check out, if you are gone up to the chapter 6, you check this 45th verse about sentiency and insentiency. What is the cause of this? Because it's a brilliant verse, and normally we make a mistake that sentiency means consciousness, the original consciousness. Vidyaranya makes a difference, and this helps us in our realization of the original consciousness. You know, there are Vidyaranya is very good when it comes to breaking down the truth into its technical components. Like in 6th chapter, you say that it's got Kutastha, it has got Jiva, it has got Brahma, it has got Megakasha, you know, all those terms are there. But it helps us. Ultimately, it only helps us to understand that Turiyam is our real nature. You see, the main point is you should never forget the goal of all our analysis is to say Aham Brahmasmi. You see, that is the ultimate goal. Never forget that. Because all our literature is only pointing to make me say in my own mind, I am not this body or mind, I am that Sakshi. You see, that gives you a lot of peace in the mind. And if you start developing to say it, the beauty is when you don't want also, the mind will repeat this. You see, because it has got, you've got the samskara of that jnana.
Yes.
Okay, good, Vijaya.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Because the thing is, when we say the Brahman, which is the pure consciousness, that is there in all the Traya Avasthas, right?
Yes,
So there
that's
is
correct.
nothing called separate Kutastha. The Kutastha, when it merges at the pure consciousness, there is no Kutastha as such. There is no Jiva as such.
Yes, you see, that is what happens through jnanam. You see, what you are expressing is that jnanam tells you that Turiyam or Brahman is always there. That is the eternal self. That is the immortal self. And it is all pervading. It is not that it is only in my body. It is not other in. You see, therefore, a jnani has got sarvatma bhava. Sarvatma bhava is a very important feature of a jnani. Sarvatma bhava means what? I am there everywhere. You see, therefore, then you don't see differences. You only see oneness.
Yeah, like in the Yomam Pashati Sarvatra Maya.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You're
Thank you,
able to
thank
put.
you.
I'm glad you're able to bring out a lot of your learning into these putting them together. You see, that is a great skill. Very very well done, Vijaya. Okay. Anybody else has any other question? Okay. If there are no questions, Sumana, you have anything? Okay, good. All right. Thank you. Good night. We'll see you next.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Hari Om.
Thank you.
Bye.